Avaya has changed my life.
Avaya has made me the woman I am today.
Avaya is my home.
Avaya is personal freedom.
Avaya is the reason my life continuously improves.
Let everyone in your life know about Avaya.
Everyone needs to know about this amazing company.
Thank you, Avaya, for appearing in my inbox.
What Ike Allen and Andy Anderson have created at Avaya is what the world needs.
Hello, Avaya family. I'm Andy Anderson. My partner Ike Allen and I are teachers, mentors, and the co-owners of Avaya University. Avaya is the creator of over 1,000 books, films, courses, teachings, and other supportive resources. Thank you, as always, for joining us. Our fellow teacher, Candace Plattor, is back with us today to talk about self-respect, the key to overcoming codependency for addicts and their loved ones. Candace is an addictions therapist in private practice, where she specializes in working with the family and other loved ones of people who are struggling with addiction in her unique and signature family addiction counseling and therapy program. As a former addict with almost 34 years clean and sober, Candace has learned that overcoming addiction is a family condition. Everyone in the family is affected by addiction, and everyone needs to heal. For more than 3 decades now, she has been helping both addicts and their loved ones understand their dysfunctional behaviors and make a healthier life for themselves. Thank you so much for joining us again, Candace.
Oh, you're welcome. It's so good to be here. Hi, everyone. I just want to say I was telling Andy I'm having a little bit of a throat thing this morning. I might sound a little croaky, but hopefully it'll get better as I talk.
Thank you. And well, we can always take water breaks or whatever you need to do. So awesome. Well, it's good to see you again, Candace. It's been a little while since we've had you here at Avaya, and I'm so excited to be talking about this topic today. So what is self-respect exactly, and how do you differentiate that from self-esteem?
Yeah. It's such an important issue. It's such an important, to me, self-respect is the most important thing we either have or don't have. So, the difference between self-esteem and self-respect is a really important thing too. And most people like to talk about self-esteem. I want to be able to differentiate between the two. So self-esteem is, okay, Andy, if I said to you, you are such a great interviewer, you ask such good questions, and I'm saying those things to you, or it could be, I like your hair, I like your blouse, but what it is me saying something nice, positive, good about you. It's coming from me to you. So it's coming from the outside in. That self-esteem comes from the outside world into us. Self-respect is the complete opposite of that. Self-respect is how we feel about ourselves. It's not about how other people see us or feel about us. It's about how we feel about ourselves. So many people who are codependent, who are people pleasers, have this voice in their heads, don't we, that tell us how stupid, lazy, fat, and ugly we are. Those are the usual suspects. So we tell ourselves these things. We have this litany of really awful stuff about ourselves. And when we wake up in the morning, especially if you've got an addict in your life who's causing a lot of difficulty, and you're being codependent with the addict because you don't know what else to do, when you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, if you've even slept, right? But you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're lying there and you're overcome by worry and anxiety, and you're just giving yourself such a hard time. That's going to contribute to very low self-respect. Self-respect is about how you feel about yourself, caring enough about yourself to do what it takes to develop your self-respect so that you can live a better life.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So self-respect comes from the inside out. It comes from inside of you and then manifests out, whereas self-esteem comes from the outside in. Right. And here's the clincher. If we don't have self-respect, if our bucket is kind of empty of self-respect, I can tell you how absolutely wonderful you are, over and over again, you won't take any of it in.
Right.
You won't believe any of it because you don't believe it for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's why it's so important.
Yeah, it's so important in this topic of codependency too, since so many of us tend to want to get those accolades from outside and not generate and really tune into our own self-respect in ourselves. So like anything else you can say about like why self-respect is so important in our lives?
Well, because when we basically overall we teach other people how to treat us. That's a Dr. Phil-ism, and I don't agree with everything Dr. Phil says, but sometimes he says really good things, and that's one of them because it's absolutely true. We teach other people how to treat us. So if we don't have our self-respect, if if we allow other people to treat us badly, say bad things to us, neglect us, abuse us, we are basically telling them it's okay for you to do that to me.
Right.
So that's another reason why self-respect, it's so important to develop this because we don't have to live that way. When we're codependent, when we're people pleasers, until we heal this, and I'm a recovering codependent, just so you know, um, other people are more important to us than we are to ourselves. And it needs to shift the other way around
Yeah.
so that you're important to me and I care about you, but I care about myself more, even if just a little bit more.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely an important shift there. So, so here's another question around self-respect. So, how does self-respect or the lack of self-respect, how does it affect recovery from addiction? Since I know that's a specialty of yours, if you're an addict of any kind. So this could be obviously alcohol, drugs, food, sex, what have you.
Yeah. Um, when we have an addict in our lives who's in active addiction, who's still using, drinking, gambling, whatever they're doing, they are in a place of self-absorption, like total self-absorption. Their empathy about how you feel about what's going on is going to be little to none. And they're going to just treat you the way they want to treat you so that they can get what they want because their basic credo is I want what I want when I want it. And I want it right now and I want it from you. And I don't care who I step on or how I get it. But if I want something from you, I'll do whatever I have to do. And if we don't have the self-respect to stand up and say, wait a minute, they're going to keep doing that. And when they keep doing that, that's not good for them. It's not healthy for them. It's not a loving act for us to allow them to get away with that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's not a loving act toward ourselves to accept that as any kind of behavior from anybody, but especially the addict, because you're hurting them by allowing them, you're kind of preparing them for a world that doesn't exist out there. They're not going to be able to, they're not going to be allowed to do that out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how our world functions. There are rules, laws,
Right. Yeah. Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you for that. And so let's now talk about how does self-respect or lack of self-respect affect family members and other people who find themselves in love with addicts or in the family of addicts.
Yeah, and it's basically the same thing, until you start to believe more in yourself, you're going to let other people abuse you in some way, manipulate you, um, convince you that you're nothing. Parents of addicts, the addicts love to say, especially to their mothers, "You're a terrible mother. You won't give me $20. You're a terrible mother." Well, you got to be thinking about whether a terrible mother is somebody who gives money to an addict when they know where that's going to go.
Right.
It's going to go up their nose, it's going to go in their arm. Is that a good mother? Or is a good mother somebody who says, I love you enough, I love you so much, and I love you enough to say no to you. I love you enough to not feed your addiction. I love you enough to not fund your addiction.
Mm-hmm.
But that takes self-respect. And Many times in the families that we've grown up in as codependents and people pleasers, we developed that coping mechanism because somehow we didn't feel safe as children. Something happened and we didn't feel safe. So we bring that into adulthood, into our relationships until we heal that, until we finally say, I care about myself.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought, what happened in our childhood into it, because that is definitely something we talk about a lot when we talk about codependency at Avaya, how those coping mechanisms get developed at a young age, depending on whatever you grew up with. And so many of
Yep.
us grew up in chaotic kinds of environments to some degree, which creates lots of interesting habits as adults, for sure.
And you know, we're very bright and we're very creative and we find ways to cope with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it suits us, it serves us well as children. If I didn't please my narcissistic mother, there was hell to pay. I was unsafe if I didn't please her. I didn't understand that when I was a child. I just pleased her. As I learned more about codependency and what that's really about and why we do it, I think to myself, okay, brava, I figured out how to survive in that family.
Right.
But what I did, and what most of us do, is I carried it into my adult relationships, into my relationships with men, into my friendships, into my workplace, you know, because I didn't know how to do anything else.
Right.
So that's why we need to be working on our self-respect.
Mm-hmm. And yes, I do
Yeah.
know. I absolutely know. All
I'm
those
sure
things.
you do, because you wouldn't be doing these summits
Right.
if you know,
Yeah.
we teach what we've learned. Sometimes the people say we teach what we most need to learn. Sometimes that's true,
Mm-hmm.
but we also teach what we know now.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and thank you for doing these. Yeah.
Oh, my pleasure. It's a continuous learning journey for myself as well. So
Yeah.
okay, we've talked about self-respect, what it is, the difference between that and self-esteem. So how does one cultivate that self-respect? What any like tactics or shortcuts we can implement to do this in our life?
Yeah, I don't really think there are shortcuts. The only well, I'll get to the only shortcut I know, which isn't really a shortcut, because this takes work. It takes a commitment to ourselves. It takes really being willing to look inward and see how this developed and what we want to change about it. Um, but I think that one of the major ways to start to build self-respect is to look at the issue of trust, right? We talk about trust in our society as, can I trust you? Can I trust you, Andy? Can I trust you? And what I'm really saying is, can I trust you not to hurt me? Can I trust you not to get angry with me or disappoint me? Can I trust you to not raise my trigger points? But we live on a planet of free will. We just do. And I can't control any other person. None of us can. So I can't control whether you behave yourself in the way I want you to, right? I can't control that. You can say to me, oh, yeah, you can trust me totally. I'll never disappoint you. Well, that's kind of crazy,
Right.
because you might without even knowing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that when we talk about trust, what we're really talking about is self-trust. Self-trust is about whatever you do, Andy, whatever you say to me, whatever happens, I know that I will take care of this. I will look after myself. I will find a way to either talk to you about it, or maybe if you've done it often enough, I'll make a decision to not have you in my circle of love, right? But I'm going to trust myself to take care of myself, because that's the only person I control.
Right.
So, you're innocent until proven guilty, of course. So, I trust you. I trust that in this interview, everything is going to be fine. But if it isn't, I'm going to look after myself and I'm going to make sure that I do something about it, like talking to you or whatever.
Right.
So when we Um, when we trust ourselves, that's how self-respect builds. Self-respect builds by doing the next right thing for ourselves, and the next right thing after that, and the next right thing after that, and taking care if we make a mistake, cleaning up a mistake, going to somebody and saying, you know, when I said this to you, I didn't like how I felt when I said that to you, and I'd really like to just be able to say it again or talk to you about it. I didn't mean to hurt you. That's self-respect.
Mhm.
Self-respect is what I like to call the cake. It's the substance, it's the cake of who we are. And self-esteem, when we hear it from the outside in, that's the icing and the sprinkles and the cherries, you know?
Yep.
But without the cake, we're kind of doomed. We're a candle in the wind.
Yeah. Yeah, I love how you just described that. And it also really makes me think of like personal responsibility and taking responsibility for if I get triggered by something out here that I can't control, I'm going to do my own work to soothe myself, to work through that, to do the things that I need to do to make myself feel better or feel whatever I'm feeling and work through that. I think that that's just very empowering.
Yeah, self-respect is about empowerment.
Mm,
It's the only thing it's the most important thing we absolutely truly can have.
mm,
And without it, what kind of life can we have, really? The interesting thing about people pleasing and codependency, it took me a long time to see this. As a people pleaser, I was trying to make you happy so that I didn't have to deal with your anger, your frustration, your disappointment in me.
right.
I didn't want you to get angry with me. I didn't want conflict. I didn't want confrontation. You know, I didn't know how to deal with those things. So I said yes when I didn't mean yes a lot of the time,
Hmm.
just so that I didn't have to deal with that. So the mistake that people pleasers make is we think to ourselves, but I'm such a nice person. I'm such a nice person. Why do people treat me so badly when I'm so nice? But we aren't really that nice. I mean, I'm not saying we're not nice. I'm nice most of the time. You know, I have my moments, but we're not people pleasing. We're not saying yes to others and giving and giving and giving because we're nice.
Right.
People pleasing is a self-protection. We're
Hmm.
doing it to protect ourselves. It's kind of manipulative. And once we can understand that, and once we can learn how to deal with other people's anger or disappointment or frustration in clean, healthy ways, assertive ways, self-respecting ways, then we are absolutely emotionally free to be who we are
I love that
at
whole part.
any given moment. Yep. So
That's beautiful.
that's the work, is learning how to take somebody else's criticism of us or whatever doesn't feel good to us and learn how to deal with that, learn how to be able to respond to that. That allows me to be me. And this is my favorite mug. It says, live a life you love.
Mm,
You can't live a life you love if you're people pleasing.
right.
It just, the two cannot coexist, I have found.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that you brought it back to recognizing that it's a self-protective mechanism and it is like a way to manipulate the situation or control what's happening. And
Yep.
I totally get that because that is something I definitely recognize in myself. And for anyone watching right now, it's not always easy to hear, wait a second, why would I be doing that? I'm such a nice
Yeah, but
person,
I'm
but it
so nice.
right.
Yeah.
But
But
it's
here's the thing, if you want to be nice to you first.
yeah.
Like on the airplane when you're supposed to put your own mask on, even though it's so tempting to try to help everybody else first, you're going to be lying dead on the floor, right? So So be nice to yourself, be kind to yourself, learn how to respect yourself if you don't feel like you do.
Yeah. I love that. That was just beautiful. Such an important message in really taking ownership of our tendencies in that way. And here's another thing I'm curious what your thoughts are around as it relates to self-respect. So, since so many people with codependent tendencies tend to be attracted to people who are broken, so to speak, or who need
Or
rescuing or that
or
kind
who
of
are
stuff,
abusive or whatever. Yep.
any of those things, any thoughts on, I guess, how to break that cycle as it relates to self-respect when you realize you're that person? I keep recreating these relationships that I'm rescuing somebody or I'm dealing with somebody who's not nice.
When we don't have a sense of our own worth, we try to get that from the outside in. So if I can just help this person, that'll show that I'm a good person. One of the things for me, because I didn't feel loved by, again, my narcissistic mother, who had a hard time loving anybody but her, um, I my codependency involved wanting other if I could just get him, whoever he happened to be at the moment, if I could just get him to love me, I was healed. I was saved. And then, even better, I could ride around in his back pocket thinking I had a life when I was just really living his life. Yeah. So when we don't have a sense of our own worth, we try to get that from outside. And when we don't have a sense of our own respect for ourselves, we let other people abuse us in a variety of ways. So that's the reason that we attract from where we are. We can't help it. We just attract from where we are. So if we are wounded, and so many of us are because of the families we grew up in, the commercials we see on TV, if you're not using the right deodorant, there is definitely something wrong with you. So much. You have to use our product in order to, be a good person. It's crazy. Really, all they want you to do is spend money on their product.
Right.
But, so if we're wounded, we attract wounded. When we start to heal that and really feel our own empowerment, our own strength, treating ourselves well, and somebody comes along and tries to not treat us well, it's like, wait a minute, this doesn't compute. I don't like this. I think I'm going to go away and not deal with you because I don't want those in my life anymore. And that's healing.
I love
That's when
it.
we know we've healed. When we're bored now by the wounded people of the world, and I don't mean that in any negative, I'm not saying we should never help anybody, please understand, but we were so excited about having a wounded person that we can help. When we stop being excited about the wounded people, that's actually when we can really help them,
Right. Right.
ironically enough. And we're not doing it to make ourselves feel better. I i don't think I actually believe in the idea of altruism. I think about Mother Teresa and people like her who helped and helped and helped, and God bless her. And, I'm glad she was doing that work with people, but she got something from it. She felt good about doing that work.
Right.
So it wasn't that she gave and gave and gave for nothing. And we have to be careful not to do that. That's not a good thing for us to do. It's codependent.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if you can really be human and not like have some kind of an exchange, in those scenarios, right? That is a
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
good.
and I'm not suggesting that people not help other people, because I try to help people every day, but I'm doing it from a different place. I'm not doing it from a place of, "I'll help you so that you like me."
Right.
It's not about that anymore, and so it makes the help even more, uh, accessible. It just it's cleaner. I don't know how to really it's
Yeah.
cleaner. Yeah,
That was the word that was coming to me in the moment. Exactly. It's clean. It's a cleaner kind of energy or help that you're putting out into the world. Absolutely.
that's right. And it feels much better. It's
Yes.
really hard work being codependent every day.
Oh, it's exhausting.
Oh, it's exhausting. Yeah.
It really is. Absolutely. So Candace, I want to make sure you have a chance to talk about your free book you have for everyone. And there's
Yeah.
a button below that links over to your site that people can go
Yeah.
grab that. So could you share about that?
Yeah. I've written 3 books now. Um, but the one that you would be able to get a free copy as a PDF, you can get a free copy of my book, and it's this book. You may have seen it in your bookstore or online. Loving an Addict, Loving Yourself: the top 10 survival tips for loving someone with an addiction. And it's won several awards that surprised me, because in my addiction, I never thought I could ever help anybody in the whole world ever, you know. And so this book, I think it really helps people who are dealing with an addict in their lives, but it's also for people who have any kind of codependent relationships. You'll be able to see yourself on a lot of those pages. So you can get a free copy in full of my book. And then we're also, we do an ask us anything, um, that we do every couple of weeks. And it's kind of a Q&A session where it's either me there or one of my team members. We have counselors, coaches who are just spectacular, who work with families and addicts. So you can read the book, you can come in and ask your questions about the book, about your life. We'll do our best to answer those questions, because when you're in the situation of loving an addict, it's such a devastating situation to be in, and most people don't know what to do. They don't know what to do, and this book helps you understand that. And coming to our Ask Us Anything sessions will also help you with that. So you get the Ask Us Anything for 3 months
Great.
from the time you start coming. 3 months.
And is that when they register to get your book? Is that how that happens? Okay. Excellent.
Exactly. When you register to get the book, you'll get an email that explains to you how to sign up for the Ask Us Anything, how to get your free pass for that.
Wonderful. Thank you. I love that. That's a great resource for people.
And
And again,
we also at Love with Boundaries, which is, I used to do Love Without Boundaries, which isn't really love, but Love with Boundaries, we give 30-minute free telephone or Zoom consultations. If you're needing some help, you want to see whether we could be a good fit for you, we see whether you're a good fit for us, and we're happy to talk to you. So if you're wanting that, all you need to do is fill out a questionnaire, which is on our website. The link to that is on the website, and we'll get back in touch with you as soon as we get your questionnaire.
Wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate you mentioning that as well. And everyone, the buttons below that links over to all of that. Do you have any last insights? Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up?
I just want to say, if you're struggling right now, 2 things. You don't have to do it alone, and please don't ever give up. Because if I made it through, I'm going to be 34 years clean and sober on July 18th. You know, I never thought I'd have 34 years clean and sober. The addict in your life doesn't think they're ever going to have 34 years clean and sober. It's one day at a time, 1 second at a time. Don't give up. If you're codependent, get some help with that. We can help you with that. You don't have to live this way anymore. You just don't.
Gave me the chills just there. Thank you. And congratulations on your own story and sobriety. And that's just amazing.
Thank
So
you.
I appreciate that and you
Thanks.
sharing that. Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this again. It's so great to reconnect with you, Candace.
Yes, it was wonderful. Thank you, Andy. And bye, everyone. Have a good day. Hopefully.
Absolutely.
Wishing you a good day. Yeah.
Awesome. And yes, Avaya students, thanks so much for tuning in to this latest class, and we'll see you again soon. Take care. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us for this latest class with Candace Plattor. She was back with us today to talk about self-respect, the key to overcoming codependency for addicts and their loved ones. I always enjoy connecting with Candace and really enjoyed this conversation and a lot of aha moments about what it takes to develop self-respect and what the difference is between self-respect and self-esteem. Obviously, working from, cultivating that self-respect from within us. It is something that we are responsible for cultivating, and it is how we feel and think about ourselves, as opposed to getting accolades, getting praise, what have you, from people outside of us, which is all great and it's wonderful. And it's like the cherry on top, like we were talking about, where we really need to focus on that, building that really strong foundation of self-respect for ourselves in order to overcome our codependent tendencies and really learn to love ourselves. So I hope that you enjoyed that. And if you enjoyed Candace's talk, she is featured in a couple of other masterclasses here at Avaya, including Overcoming Codependency, as well as Breaking Free from Abandonment and Betrayal. So if you want to check those out, those are over at the homepage of avaya.com. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care.
Avaya has changed my life.
Avaya has made me the woman I am today.
Avaya is my home.
Avaya is personal freedom.
Avaya is the reason my life continuously improves.
Let everyone in your life know about Avaya.
Everyone needs to know about this amazing company.
Thank you, Avaya, for appearing in my inbox.
What Ike Allen and Andy Anderson have created at Avaya is what the world needs.